Hi, it's time for a Chime video. So what you're looking at is something that most of you probably have never seen. This is a box that contains a set of 4 brand new NuTone Chime tubes. And these are the types of Chime tubes that would have been used with NuTone chimes made from the probably late 1970s through the mid 2000s or so. This is a complete set. This could have fit a model like an LA56 or an LD49 or any of those models that they made during that time. One of the things that makes these tubes unique are the hangers that they use to hang the tubes onto the chime. So let's go ahead and unpackage these carefully because they are brand new. And we're going to go ahead and take out the shortest of the chime tubes because that'll be easiest to deal with in the video. We'll put these 4 aside. And see, even though they're brand new, they've been bouncing around in their box probably for the last 20 years. They do have a certain amount of scratching on them, but that would tend to easily polish out, so that's not too bad. So let's put these out of the way and talk about the topic of this particular video. Early NuTone chime tubes had a variety of different types of ways to hang the tubes on the chime. Most of them involve some type of hanger cord, and they would be the right length and they would hang on the hanger brackets on the chime base. Starting sometime in the mid 1970s, NuTone abandoned the hanger cord idea and they came up with this. This is a little piece of injection molded plastic, and it's the hanger for the tube, and it has this little eyelet in the middle right here, which you can see, the slot in the middle, and that hangs over the hanger arm on the chime base, and the tube hangs like this. This was a popular and easy way to hang the tubes, but the problem with these are as the plastic gets older, it gets brittle and eventually they snap off. These parts, these hangers, these haven't been made in probably 15 years, and it's not the kind of thing that even a fairly large service center would have a great number of. I think the last ones I had were probably 5 or 6 years ago, and even then I only had a couple of them at that time. It's not the kind of thing you would keep 100 of them on the shelf in case you needed one. You might keep 3 or 4, and that would be enough to last you a couple years. So what I'm going to show you in this video is how to replace one of these if yours gets broken. In the top of the tube, there's a steel cap, the silver part, that's pressed down into the end of the tube, and then the plastic hanger locks into a slot in the tube cap. The way you take one of these out is, and I'm doing this at great personal risk here because the odds of breaking this are actually probably 50-50. At the very end of the plastic hanger right here, it's square, and it's sort of a twist lock design. So what I have to do is, and I'm going to have to hold it like this so I can see it while I'm talking about it, is by using a pair of needle nose pliers, you reach in there and you carefully grab either side of the square part and you twist it carefully, and it should unlock. Now sometimes it can be tricky, and like I say, you run the risk of breaking it. And since this is from a brand new set, I would prefer not to break it. And we were lucky because it came out in one piece. It didn't break. We'll look at this more closely in a second. If you look in the end of the tube now, you can see, I think you can see, that's better. You can see there's sort of a cross-shaped cutout in the end of the steel cap. So here is the close-up view of the tube hanger. It's made out of some kind of plastic, or perhaps it's nylon. Up here is the slot that goes in the hanger arm on the chime base. Down here below the square is right here. The square is right here. This is the part I turned with the needle nose pliers. This round piece right here with the 2 little ears on it is the part that sits on the top of the cap inside the end of the tube, and this part down here fits through the opening in the cross, and then you twist it to lock it in place. Normally when these break, they break right in here somewhere because they get banged around. People walk by the tubes and bang into them and they swing back and forth, and the nylon or the plastic gets brittle and it snaps off. So this part is stuck on the chime, and the tube and the bottom half fall on the floor. And that's a problem. So how do you fix something like this? Well, there's a couple different ways to do it, and today I'm going to talk about one of them and show you my preferred way to deal with this. Here we're looking at the end of the tube. This is the end that had the hanger in it. It's got the steel end cap right inside here. And one way you can deal with this is, if you want to go old school on it, you could actually drill 2 holes, one here and the second one directly across from the first one on the other side of the tube, and sort of go the old school way and then hang it with a piece of hanger cord. I actually have another video that shows how to restring tubes that have holes in them for hanger cords, and I'll put a link to that video at the end of this video. Drilling the hole in the brass tube, not always the best idea. It's more complicated than people might imagine. It's somewhat difficult to get the holes directly across from each other when you drill through the tube, and if you do it wrong, you've messed up your tube, and then what are you going to do? Finding replacements of these is really difficult nowadays, so you don't want to do anything that would risk it. So that's not my preferred method. My preferred method is to make a replacement for the hanger that goes in the slot in the end cap. To make a replacement hanger, you're going to need a few supplies. You're going to need some type of hanger cord. This is hanger cord that's used on wind chimes and things like that. This is what we use when we restring tubes for customers. You can use something like this. It's not expensive. You can buy it at your local craft stores, and you can also use some nylon string or something like that. It just has to be something that's strong enough so it will support the weight of the tube, and also you have to be able to tie a knot in it correctly so it won't unravel, but I'll show you a way to work around that. So you're going to need the hanger cord, you're going to need a little bit of super glue, and you're going to need some type of dowel, whether it's wood or fiberglass dowel or plastic dowel. This happens to be a piece of carbon fiber dowel that we have here at the shop, and this is what I'm going to use today because it's what I have. What type of material it is doesn't really make any difference. It just is best if it's round and it's not too big of a diameter. This is actually, let's see, we'll get our calipers out here and we'll do a quick measurement and see what we've got. This is actually 3.21 millimeters, or for those of you who don't do metric, it is 1/8 of an inch. So that's about the right size. Anything much larger than that, little hard to deal with, so not too bad. Smaller than a pencil though. Pencil won't really work. It's really too big around. The first thing we have to do is we have to cut a piece of the dowel that's just a little bit shorter than the diameter of the tube. So since we have our calipers out, we'll go ahead and use those, and we'll measure the inside of the end cap. So the inside of the end cap is almost 21 millimeters. So we're going to make our dowel a little shorter than that because it doesn't need to go all the way side to side inside the tube. It can be a little bit shorter. So we're going to make it 19. So we'll set our calipers at very close to 19. I think 18.98 is close enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark it with the Sharpie like that. It's not super critical, but you want it to be reasonably close to the diameter of the inside of the tube, because that way it'll fit in nicely. Once you've done that, we need to cut it. So we'll use our little razor saw here, and we'll simply cut a piece off. So we'll go ahead and cut off our little piece. Like that. And now we have a little piece of dowel. Once we've done that, put that there. We need a little bit of a hanger cord. Now, what I've learned with the hanger cord is when you're going to tie something with this, give yourself a lot. This is probably 12 or 14 inches. It's inexpensive, and it makes it a lot simpler to tie if you have a lot to hold on to. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to start to tie a knot here, more or less in the middle. And then I'm going to tie it around the outside of the dowel, more or less in the middle. And you pull it pretty tight, and then we'll tie the second half of the knot. Like this, and we'll pull it tight. And you want it in the center of the length of the dowel, as close as you can get it. Like that. Very simple. Now, if you're doing this for real, what you want to do is, and I'm not going to do this now because I don't want to wait for it to dry, you take your super glue and you're going to put a little dab of super glue on the knot that you tied in the cord around the dowel, and then when it dries it won't loosen up or become unknotted, which would be a problem because then it'll slide off the dowel and it won't work. I'm not going to do that in this video because I don't want to get super glue on my fingers and glue my fingers together, and I don't really want to wait like an hour for it to dry to be able to finish the video. So once you've tied it and you've super glued it, because that's the right way to go, what you're going to do is you're going to take your tube with the end cap and the cross in it, and you're going to put the dowel down inside the slot in the end cap. And this is a little tricky to do while you hold it with one hand and make a video and talk all at the same time. But basically all you have to do is get it down inside. See, it'll be much easier when you do your own. Push it down inside like this. Like that. And it is actually much easier to do when you have two hands and you're not making a video. And when you push it down inside and then you pull it back up, look, it hangs because the dowel is sitting underneath the end cap crosswise, so the tube is supported by the dowel. Now once you've done that, you still have to hang it. And when you go to hang it, there's a couple different ways to do it. The easiest way to do it is you hang it on the support arm on the chime base, and the goal is to have the top of this tube be the same height as the tops of the other three tubes on the chime. So the easiest way to do this is you simply loop it over the hanger arm and tie a knot. But I'll tell you what, it probably would be easier if I show you, but I don't have a chime base here that's new enough to show you exactly how to do that. So let me see what I can set up, and maybe it'll make it easier. So here's our pretend test setup. This is our chime testing base that we use to test all of the door chime bases after we repair them. And what you can see is the blue tape with the numbers represent different tubes. So here we have tube number 1, which is the shortest tube, and then tube number 2, which is the next longest tube. Tube number 3 is missing because that's the one that the hanger broke and it fell down on the floor. And then here's tube number 4, and that's the longest tube. So our job here is to take the tube that we made our hanger support for, and we need to tie it around the hanger support, which will be this screw right here, so that the top of our tube equals the same height as the top of the other 3 tubes. This is not terribly difficult to do. However, if this is the first and only time you're going to do this, sometimes it's easy if you have a helper, because the helper, once you get it all sort of lined up the way you want it, they can hold the bottom of the tube that you're hanging and help support the weight so it's not sliding around when you're trying to tie the knot. So the way I like to do this is I'm going to start the knot in the hanger cord first. And I'm sure all of you know how to tie a knot, so you don't really need to watch me do that. And so I've got my knot started. I'm going to put it over my screw, and I'm going to pull it and pull it up until it's approximately the same height as the tops of the blue tape. Now, to you, it looks like it's a little high because the camera is kind of tilted up, but to me, it's the same height So you'll just have to believe me with that. Once you have it at this point, this is when you would have your helper support the tube, lift it up a little bit so all the weight's not hanging on it. But I'm going to see if I can do this all on my own because, you know, I am a trained professional and I've done this before, which means probably it'll slip and fall and I'll dent the bottom of the tube or make a gouge in the hardwood floor or some other thing. Perhaps it'll hit the cat and that'll be bad. So I'm going to tie it, and while I'm doing it, I'm kind of holding it in place with my fingers. And there you have. How's that? Got it the first time. Once you have it to this point, what I would recommend doing is ringing the chime one time, because that way you'll see how it sounds. Because the real test on any chime is, what does it sound like when it rings? Once you have it so you're happy with it, and you have the knot here, what I would do is tie the knot one more time, just to make sure, because you don't want it coming loose, like that. And then, once you've done that, guess what we're going to do? We're going to use our super glue, once again, super glue, like this, and we're going to put a little dab of super glue right on the knot. And then it'll dry, and it won't untie, and the tube won't fall, and it won't bend the bottom of the tube, and it won't hit the cat or make a gouge in the hardwood floor. So it's an easy thing to do. So that's how you replace a broken plastic hanger on a mid-70s to mid-2000s NuTone long tube chime. I hope you found this interesting and perhaps it'll be helpful. If it is, and it does, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube because that helps us. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications. And every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.